Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's panned out absolutely perfectly for Galan because he can test it out with Chingotto. And if it doesn't work, say, hey, we gave it a go, mate. And now I have the next best option I have on the table because he can just call Yanguas and Yanguas will say, yes, 100%.
The partnership, I think it makes so much sense. I mean, I think both of us have been screaming for this for a while now, and especially when the rumor came out that Lebron was going to pair up with Augsburger, we kind of both were pulling our hairs and saying like, wait, where is Stupa in all of this? Why isn't Lebron calling Stupa? I feel like a partnership of Stupa and Lebron really puts them there in that kind of contention bucket. But would it be enough to beat Coello and Tapia? I mean, it's just so hard to say, right?
But I just think that based on what we've seen this year, it is a bit of a risk. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm very excited. I think their game styles match a lot. They're both very attacking players, very aggressive, very quick around the court.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Padel Pod, your weekly podcast covering professional paddle presented by Hugo and Gons. We're on to episode 79. And as always, joined by my co-host Hugo here today. It's great to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Gons. I'm, well, a bit sad that we haven't had any paddle this week, to be honest. It feels so strange. And particularly given that we've only got one tournament left until probably, well, the Hexagon Cup, which is obviously that kind of exhibition tournament, starts towards the end of January. But apart from that, the season will start in February. So it's going to be a few cold months, both temperature wise, but also paddle wise. And I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know it's strange, right? When you've had basically every single week been watching matches this following the season, and now it just all comes to an end. So it definitely feels weird. I'm sure that the players though are very much looking forward to taking a bit of a break and then getting back into the swing of things. But yeah, as you said, I mean, we've got the Hexagon Cup probably, oh, I think starting late January, it's always a bit of fun. But yeah, I mean, I think by kind of mid-Jan or early Feb, we'll probably be like commenting on just 1 minute highlight clips of like trainings and be like so excited about it. But yeah, it's getting to that time of the season. And but yeah, I mean, still one more tournament left, and looking forward to that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what I am actually still quite surprised about the Hexagon Cup, just to touch on that quickly, is that both Lebron and Galan are still not involved. And it seems like they're not going to get involved. So, I mean, I'm quite surprised. A lot
Hmm.
more new stuff. Well, more stars like Yanguas is now going to take part, and Garrido, if I'm not mistaken, players that didn't play last season. So, seems a bit surprising, but hey, I mean, I guess we'll see. If I'm not mistaken, was there some other tournament on at the same time last year? Maybe in Miami, one of these exhibition, wasn't it the something cup over in Miami? The Reserve Paddle Cup was on at the same time.
It
Was
could
that
be,
it?
yeah,
Um, I remember that. So maybe it's
potentially.
due to that. Who knows? But yeah, I'm just quite surprised given that basically it's the biggest exhibition tournament all year, and there's so many top players, quite a lot of money involved, as we know from people in common who kind of set it up or helped set it up. And I'm just quite surprised that obviously two of the biggest faces in paddle aren't in it. But hey,
And it's in Madrid, right? So they don't really have to move much to go and
literally,
play.
literally. I mean,
Um,
but who knows? I guess they'll probably getting paid. They'll be getting paid more elsewhere, and that's the reason why they're not playing.
yeah, exactly. But maybe moving on to kind of the main topics I wanted to discuss today. So we are starting to get now more information around the pairs for the 2025 season. I think players are, coming out a bit more and kind of either saying goodbyes to their current pairs or kind of confirming that, they'll be sticking with their current partners for the 2025 season, at least the start of it. And probably one of the biggest ones that came out this week was Galan confirming in an interview with us, a kind of a Spanish sports paper. And he confirmed that him and Chingo will start the 2025 season together. Now, I kind of want to emphasize that a bit because I always kind of find it funny when they talk about it. It almost seems like, yeah, we're going to be together in 2025, as in like assuming that they're going to be the whole year together. And we know that's very much not the case. I do want to emphasize that it's very much they're going to start 2025 together. And then, who knows what can happen after that. But Yeah, he did confirm that. I mean, and I think Hugo, we talked about obviously extensively. It kind of makes sense, I think, for both of us. But they haven't had the best end of seasons, or certainly not what they were hoping for, based on the first half of the season that was so good to the for them. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. But I do think that, if they continue on the same trajectory that they have been this last, couple of months, I wouldn't be surprised if towards the first half of the 2025 season, then we start to get really concerned about, their future together.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually, well, surprised in a way because I wasn't expecting the announcement when it came. But as we know, it's rumor season and next year confirmations regarding pairs season. So it does happen. And I mean, as I say, I'm not surprised because of the season that they've had together. They've pretty much made every single final bar the two consecutive ones prior to the last tournament in Milan when they lost to Stupa. So they probably didn't even expect having such a good season when you look at it that way. It's just that Coello and Tapia have been a level above. And this is probably Padel's most two-sided season ever. I don't think we ever expected something like this to happen. So they it's like they should be happy, but they aren't happy because there's another pair that's even better than them. But it doesn't mean that they're not doing well. So the only thing that does surprise me in a way is that given that it seems like Yanguas and Stupa are separating, and I don't want to touch on probably the next topic of today, but I do have to mention it, and it's the fact that a lot of rumors are going around that Lebron has actually decided not to pair up with Asburger because he's called Stupa and Stupa has said yes. That's one of the rumors going around. It's not confirmed, as I say. But given that that's happened and given that Yanguas is free, as per se, we both shared that we thought Yanguas was probably Galan's best option from a forehand player perspective to be able to challenge Coello and Tapia, mainly due to the fact that Yanguas is such an aggressive forehand player. He's been this season's most improved player. I mean, I think that's a pretty objective opinion by now. And the amount of winners he generates, taking into account how good he is defensively, because when you looked at Padel Intelligence's stats regarding unforced error count, etc., Yanguas was pretty much at the same level as Chingotto, who is deemed to be the best in the world in that side of things. So having that plus his attacking side of the game basically tells me, and it's what we've been discussing, right, is the fact that to challenge Coello and Tapia, you probably need two incredibly aggressive players that both can generate winners, because that's what Coello and Tapia do. They're both unbelievably good defensively, but attacking wise, they can both win matches by themselves. And we both think, and probably a lot of our fans think, that it's not the case with Chingotto and Galan. We've seen Galan carrying the weight from a winner perspective and attacking perspective. And I think the main reason why they've been so good this season is because Galan has been at a level where, at the highest level that we've probably seen any player play at. Now that he's dropped a little bit and that Chingotto's potentially not playing as well as he was playing a few months ago, we're obviously questioning whether Galan should be looking elsewhere to have a partner next to him that can help in that attacking perspective. So that's why I'm slightly surprised about this announcement. I mean, is Yanguas a better option for him if they want to challenge Coello and Tapia? I think yes, it is a risk because, he already knows how to play next to Chingotto. They've invested a lot of time together and they're pretty solid sat at that, number 2 ranked pair. But you might have to take risks to be able to beat Coello and Tapia, given that they're one of the best pairs to ever grace the game. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, Gon.
Well, my thoughts are, it kind of feels like if it does end up happening and Stupa and Yang was split and Lebron's the one that pairs up with Stupa and kind of Yanguas is left there, I feel like it's the perfect situation for Galan because he gives himself, let's say, the chance to start with Chingotto, and I generally think that they really like each other. I mean, I generally think they get along super well, and if you can succeed with Chingotto and get to the number 1, I mean, it just almost feels like getting the number one with your best mate, if you see what I mean. So it's just like that double satisfaction of like actually as well doing it with someone that you just like love being around and you know you're really close with and stuff. So in that sense, I feel like he's giving himself that chance. And, you know, let's see potentially if they have a preseason together, they work on some things, and maybe Chingotto can develop a bit more that offensive side. And who knows, maybe he does and it works out, then great. And then if he doesn't, then it now becomes so clearly obvious that there's no better option like for Yanguas as well, like there's no better option than Galan, and it makes it such an easy decision, right? Because if he stays with Stupa, now I wouldn't think this, and we talked about this I think in last episode as well. If Stupa and Yanguas stay together and Galan calls Yanguas, I mean, we both would take it and we both would say yes to Galan. I don't think many people would say no. But there's an argument of like, you know, they just beat them with Stupa and, you know, they're working really well together. And could you and would you want to see that kind of relate, you know, that partnership? Let's see what it can be like in the future. But if Yanguas is now, let's say, with someone like Paquito or someone like, or he goes back with Garrido or something, that kind of player, then it just becomes so obvious to Galan, like, so to Yanguas to say yes to Galan, right? I mean, I don't think there's any argument at all. So it feels like Galan almost has like two incredible options because he's starting with Chingotto now, and if that doesn't work out, then he has that option with Yanguas, and it would be like it's just so evident that Yanguas would say yes in that case. Whereas I think potentially with Stupa, you know, there's an argument there that maybe he would want to try it out, even though probably that wouldn't be the case, to be frank. So it falls perfectly, I think, for Galan, and you know, for him to be able to fight against Coello and Tapia for the number one. But and maybe now going into what I think about him and Chingotto will do next season. I mean, he did say in his interview that he feels like having this preseason is going to do really good for them because they haven't really been able to find out a way or different kind of game styles, you know, to beat Coello and Tapia because they were able to adjust, but then they weren't. I guess my only question is at this time, I mean, the partnership's basically been a year long. You did have the summer break, and maybe they didn't use it as wisely as they should have. And maybe now they'll take that chance this preseason. But I almost feel like it's going to be quite tough. Like, I know we've seen some players develop their sides of the game, but being able, like, for Chingotto to really match up to at least what Coelho has been doing now, I feel like it's going to be really tough. So it almost feels like to me, Coelho and Tapia have to have a bit of a drop off for Chingalan to really be able to compete against them.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I was slightly surprised about, I mean, I understand Galan's point of view regarding the fact that Coello and Tapia had a lot of time together and they've, well, obviously spent a lot more hours on court together. So we've talked about this a lot, how many different solutions Coello and Tapia have throughout matches to be able to win. And maybe that's a matter of the amount of time they've spent together. So they just know how to adapt to situations. And hey, Galan might be right. If he has more time on court with Chingotto, they can find different ways of playing and adapting. He probably knows more than we do. I mean, he definitely knows more. But I just don't think I don't see that being the case just because Chingotto individually has a very clear game style. And I know we've seen him be way more aggressive this season and actually generate. There were a lot of tournaments where he was generating 10, 12 winners per match with smashes even. And that's impressive. But I just don't think he's ever going to be able to generate, say, 20 winners or 20 plus winners. And that might be exactly what they need to be able to challenge Coello and Tapia for the number one ranking. Not during tournaments. They can obviously beat them. I mean, we've seen this a lot of times throughout this season. So I think we agree in the fact that Chingalan can definitely beat Coello and Tapia. It's just whether they can challenge them throughout the whole course of a season. That's where my doubts are. And yeah, I mean, as you say, it's panned out absolutely perfectly for Galan because he can test it out with Chingotto. And if it doesn't work, say, hey, we gave it a go, mate. And now I have the next best option I have on the table, because he can just call Yanguas and Yanguas will say, yes, 100%. So as you say, it's panned out really well. I mean, Galan also mentioned the fact that even though Coello and Tapia have been playing unbelievably well, he's managed to beat them with 3 different partners, which is seriously impressive, because that's obviously Juan Lebron, Chingotto, and that tournament that he played. I know it was a couple with John Santh, but throughout one of those tournaments, they managed to beat Coello and Tapia, which is obviously very impressive. And I think that just emphasizes what we were mentioning last week regarding Galan being in that top 3 players. A very clear cohort has been set, and it's Coello, Tapia, and Galan in that podium. No one else can really contest them at the moment, at least for now. So, yeah, I mean, as you say, perfect position for Galan. And I like the fact that he's backing Chingotto. It's probably going to give Chingotto a lot of confidence going into next season to try new things throughout preseason and try to maybe be more aggressive and, yeah, just try and give that extra push and go that extra mile to try and, well, challenge the Golden Boys. We'll see whether it works out, but it's probably a good time to move on to the other rumored pair. And obviously we've already mentioned it, Juan Lebron and Stupa. That seems to be a pretty much confirmed pair pending official confirmation. I mean, initially I absolutely love it. I actually thought it was going to happen last season when Lebron paired up with Dineno. We both thought it made a lot of sense given that Lebron's more of a forehand player, and we thought it was the best option that he had. We were quite surprised that we went for the Lebron went for Dineno. He must have had his reasons, but I mean, Gons, maybe over to you, as I'm normally the one that kicks it off, and I'd love to get your overall thoughts on the potential for their partnership, whether they can actually challenge for the number 1 spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the partnership. I think it makes so much sense. I mean, I think both of us have been screaming for this for for a while now, and especially when the rumor came out that LeBron was going to pair up with Augsburger, we kind of both were pulling our hairs and saying like, wait, where is Stupa in all of this? Why isn't LeBron calling Stupa? So yeah, if it is the case that Stupa and LeBron will be playing together in 2025, I mean, it just makes so much sense. You know, I think that LeBron returning to the forehand is what he needs to do if he really wants to challenge for the number 1 spot. I mean, he's, I guess, with Yanguas, kind of that four-handed player that can just generate a lot of points offensively, and it's kind of what you need nowadays to be able to challenge Coello and Tapia, given that they're able to generate winners so easily as well. So it makes so much sense. Stupa as well. I mean, he's been incredible. He's been really good. I think the second half of the season, especially late, I think he's really kind of found his form. So if he manages to stay at that level, and Lebron kind of, you know, is just Lebron, I don't think he needs to go super crazy. Just as we mentioned, maybe just play those key points like really well, which is maybe something that he's kind of struggled more this season. Then I think that they can be really tough partnership. I mean, I'm not sure that they'd be able to kind of challenge Coello and Tapia, but for someone like Chingalan, I think that would be a super tough matchup, and I think that they would really have a battle on their hands for like a number 2 spot. Whereas this season, we're clearly seeing that sure, Coello and Tapia have been a level above every single pair, but arguably Chingalan have been a level above every single other pair than Coello and Tapia. So I feel like a partnership of Stupa and Lebron really puts them there in that kind of contention bucket. But would it be enough to beat Coello and Tapia? I mean, it's just so hard to say, right? I mean, it feels like no one can beat them at the moment. But I mean, they would have the tools. Let's say that, for example, a Chingalan might have not, because Chingotto doesn't have that kind of offensive aspect to him, or is not as developed offensively. The other thing I did want to quickly mention is, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, this partnership, but on Stupa's side, it kind of the romantic paddle fan side of me is a bit, I wouldn't say let down, but just kind of sad that he's not giving himself a chance with Yanguas, given how well they've played this second half of the season, given the potential that Yanguas is showing, given that Yanguas as well is very similar to LeBron in the sense that he can really step it up offensively. And when you look at it from a points perspective, I mean, LeBron only has 500 more points or so than Young was. So it's not like Stupa is going with LeBron and just be like, and it just makes a whole lot of sense because of massive points. I mean, they would probably be the third seeded pair. And right now, Stupa and Yanguas are the third seeded pair in any case. So in that sense, I'm like, for Stupa, I would have loved for them to develop the project potentially a bit more. But at the end of the day, it's I guess this is how Sanyo was saying, right? Like paddle is a individual sport played in pairs, and at the end of the day, you kind of look out for what's best for you or what you think is best for you, and in this case, it might be that Stupa thinks that playing with LeBron is kind of what's going to get him closer to the number one spot.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm quite surprised about Stupa's decision. I totally understand LeBron saying I've got to go back to the
Exactly.
forehand. We've
Yeah.
spoken about that a lot, and I totally understand LeBron calling Stupa. I mean, agreed that it's his best option out there, at least on paper. And Stupa is a seasoned winner. I mean, he's won with basically all his pairs: Alex Ruiz, Pablo Lima. I mean, Martin Dineno, and now with Yangos as well. He's won tournaments, so he's a seasoned winner, and he's dealt with so many different personalities that I just think he's almost like the perfect partner because he's very good at adapting in that sense to different personalities and different mentalities. So I understand Juan Lebron calling Stupa. Now, I think for Stupa, it's a bit of a risk because he's finally found, I think, an appropriate way in terms of playing with Yanguas. They've solved one of their key issues as a pair, which is those balls down the middle, which have been a real struggle since they paired up. I mean, you and I talked about it a lot. Their matches towards the start, I mean, balls down the middle, they were almost like bumping into each other. I think they've now really worked out what their key patterns of play are. And I mean, they've beaten Chingalan twice in a row. They didn't actually get to face them last week in Milan, obviously due to Stupa's injury, which actually lucky that it's nothing serious, and we're very happy to see that he'll be playing in the master final. But yeah, I think it's a risk from a points perspective, as you say. It's pretty much the same between Yanguas and Lebron. And I mean, who's had a better season? I don't think there's much of an argument to look away from Yanguas. I think Yanguas has definitely had a better season. Maybe that's slightly influenced by the fact that he's coming from further back. And if we looked at them objectively, maybe we'd argue that Lebron could have had a better season. I don't know. It's very even, sorry. But going forward, given that Yanguas is only, 21, 22, and Lebron is 30, if I'm not mistaken, who's a better prospect? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably a poetic side in Stupa that thinks Lebron has been the number one player in the world with two different pairs and dominated paddle for many years. So he probably thinks that, well, Stupa obviously backs his game a lot. He's a very confident player, and he probably thinks, hey, if I play next to one of the best forehand players, I can also challenge for number one spot. And I understand it. But I just think that based on what we've seen this year, it is a bit of a risk. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm very excited. I think their game styles match a lot. They're both very attacking players, very aggressive, very quick around the court. I mean, you're going to really struggle to close a point off playing against Stupa and Lebron. It was already the case playing against Lebron and Dineno, but Stupa and Lebron, I mean, I'd say Stupa's even quicker than Dineno. So I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great pair to watch, really exciting. And they, as you say, they both have the ingredients from an attacking perspective to at least be able to challenge Coello and Tapia in terms of going for the shots. Whether they'll actually manage to get the same percentage execution and generate the same amount of winners or a similar amount of winners with a low or, a lowish unforced error count, which is what Coello and Tapia have managed throughout, since they teamed up together a couple of years ago. I think that's the bigger question. But on paper, I think it makes a lot of sense. And to be honest, I just can't wait to start watching their videos in preseason, probably in early Jan, watching them together on court and getting all excited.
Yeah, exactly. When we watch them, we'll say like, yeah, they'll definitely be able to, beat Koy and Tapia and challenge for the number one. Um, those always, fool us a little bit. But maybe moving on, we did want to touch on and end this episode with kind of a quick preview of the Masters Finals. Of course, it's the last tournament of the season. 8 pairs, 16 players have made it. Obviously, the 16 best players this season. And well, quick mention and massive shout out to Pablo Cardona, Lucas Bergamini, and if I'm not mistaken, Edu Alonso, which is the kind of first time that they make the Masters final. So, I mean, huge seasons for all of them. They all started kind of uh, a bit down in the rankings, and they didn't come with. Well, Cardona potentially came up with some decent expectations. Edu Alonso as well, but I mean, he's kind of been always more of an established player, like very decent, but not necessarily that young prospect kind of feel to him. But I mean, what season all of these players have had since the beginning and right up until the end. So excited to see them. They definitely deserve this kind of Masters Finals appearance. And for next season as well, I think that they're going to start becoming as well, very interesting players that potentially even the kind of more or better ranked players are going to start looking at them. So yeah, I mean, we did kind of just briefly mention before this call as well, looking at the draw that, I mean, even in the Masters finals, Coello and Tapia again Lebron and Dineno, sorry, in the same side as well against Coello and Tapia. So Stupa and Yanguas against Chingalan in the potential semi-finals. So that's a bit of a shame, I guess. But the matchup, I guess, between Stupa and Yanguas and Chingalan is also quite a decent one. So we'll see. But maybe Hugo, just to start with you, quick predictions for the finals. Do you think I'll just go? I'll actually ask it this way: would you take the field, so literally anyone, or Coello and Tapia?
Coello and Tapia. I mean, I actually have absolutely no doubt about that. What I do, I mean, at least from a betting perspective, if I was betting my house on someone, it would have to be Coello and Tapia. And I mean, you could literally see Coello when he got interviewed. Maybe it was probably the quarterfinals round after their win and in Milan. And he said, "No, we want to win the remaining 5 matches of the season. That's what we want to do." It's like, are you not tired of winning? I mean, I'd probably be bored by now. But yeah, I mean, I think the matchups are really quite interesting because, well, Paquito and Cardona actually made Tapia and Coello struggle a lot in Milan. I was really impressed with their performance. So hopefully they can continue that tendency, but that's probably the less even match. Then Garrido and Bergamini against Dineno and Lebron could be a really good match. I mean, Garrido and Berga are probably really pumped to be in these finals. Berga definitely didn't expect to be in them. And Lebron and Dineno, I think, yeah, it's their last tournament together. At least that's what it seems like. And yeah, it's probably quite a big hit, their loss against Coello and Tapia in Milan. I know they lost in the tiebreak of the third set, but I don't know. I just have a feeling that Berga and Garrido are going to make them suffer. And then on the other side, Stupa and Yanguas against Coquinito and John Santh. I mean, we know how Coquinito and John Santh can really take matches a very, very long way. And I think it's really even. I mean, third-seeded pair against fifth-seeded pairs. So on paper, it could be really tight. And then also Momo and Edu against Galan and Chingotto. I don't think we've watched that match much at all. So, I mean, we'll see. Again, Momo and Edu, every match they play takes about 3 hours to finish. So Galan and Chingotto maybe physically struggling a little bit towards the end of the season, given how much padel and how many finals they've had to play. So I just think overall it's really even. And I was really impressed I was quite surprised by the fact that Stupa and Yanguas are the third-seeded pair. They've overtaken Lebron and Dineno in the rankings, which is quite surprising. And then Momo and Edu, who would have said that they'd finished the season as the sixth-seeded pair? I mean, I didn't even think they were going to last the season, to be honest. I thought their game styles were too similar. But hey, credit where credit's due. But yeah, I don't want to dwell too much on that. In terms of my prediction for the final, on the left-hand side of the draw, I have to go with Coello and Tapia. I mean, if they don't make it, I'd be baffled. Now, on the forehand side of the draw, I think there's going to be some surprises. I'm going to go with Stupa and Yanguas. I think they're going to make the final. Although Young is probably quite pissed off if now that he knows that having done really well towards the end of the season, Stupa said, "Hey, I want to go with Lebron." So that could, I think they're either going to lose in the first round match against Cocky and John, or make the final. I don't think they're just going to make the semis and lose to Chingalan. But hey, I'll probably get that completely wrong. But Gons, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt, Coello and Tapia, they're going to make the final and probably win the whole thing, to be honest. I mean, there's, final tournament. You've kind of made it all this far, being undefeated since the summer break. So, I mean, just go at it once more and finish the whole thing undefeated. So, yeah, 100% Coello and Tapia. And then, I mean, I do think that Chingalan will make the final here. And, I'm just hoping for that boost, as you said, once Galan kind of announced that he's going to stick with Chingo, I hope that this gives Chingo massive confidence and just kind of gives them the boost they need to make the final here. But yeah, very interesting matchup and their first match that they have against Momo and Edo, who love to take matches to the distance. So we'll see about that. But in any case, I mean, to all our audience out there, please do watch it because I mean, all the matches are just going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I mean it's literally the last tournament of the season, and we won't watch professional paddle again until
Yeah, couple
February.
of months.
Definitely February.
Yeah,
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 it's
yeah.
it's pretty sad to be honest. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what we're gonna do. But I hope everyone has enjoyed it. Yeah, just please leave us as well your comments, what you think about the Galan and Chingo sticking together, the potential new partnership of Lebron and Stupa, and obviously as well your predictions for the final tournament of the season, the Premier Padel Finals in Barcelona. And Hugo, as always, it's been a pleasure, and we'll catch you next time.
See you in a few hours on Court Gons. Have a great week, guys. See you soon.